Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome graduates, family, friends, alumni, faculty, and staff to the Harvard College Midyear Graduates Celebration. This event, which is a long-standing tradition organized by the Harvard Alumni Association, is an opportunity for us to recognize and celebrate the accomplishments of the November 2022 and March 2023 Harvard College graduates. My name is Chibi Uwakwe, and I'm the second marshal for the 2023 class committee. I'm joined today by Kelsey Griffin, the class secretary on the 2023 class committee, and Kelsey and I will be the MCs for today's program. Class committees are formed in senior year, and they continue into alumni life. They connect classmates to each other and to Harvard. Whether you're affiliated with the class of 2023, the class of 2022, or another year, your class committee, as well as the rest of the alumni community, is here to support you in alumni life. And now I'm excited to kick off today's event. Our first speaker will be Rakesh Khurana, Danoff Dean of Harvard College, Marvin Bauer, Professor of Leadership Development at Harvard Business School, and Professor of Sociology in the Faculty of Arts and Sciences. Please join me in welcoming Dean Rakesh Khurana.
Okay. Good afternoon. Aw, good afternoon. For a second, I thought I was back at MIT where the first time I taught, I said that, and the students just wrote it down. So I am so glad to be here. So good afternoon, Harvard College graduates. I am delighted to congratulate you, our newest cohort of Harvard College graduates, on the successful completion of your undergraduate degrees. Parents, guardians, family, professors, tutors, resident deans, faculty deans of houses, and friends of our graduates, I'd like to take this opportunity to also acknowledge each of you and what you have done to support our scholars over the past several years. On behalf of the college and your students, I thank you for all your love, your support, and your good work. Today, as we celebrate your many accomplishments, we also cannot look away from the challenges you all have faced during your time at Harvard. The social challenges, decisions that led people to, take a different pace. All of these things kind of played out a little bit these last few years. I think it's a reminder that there's so much that we can't predict about the future, including about our democracy, about how we will build bridges across our differences, and how we will take better care of our planet. But throughout these past few years, as the daily headlines threaten to numb us to the challenges of the moment, you all continue to move forward. Forward with your research, with creating art, with writing, with your activism, and with your commitment to our community. You have given all of us who are fortunate enough to have worked with you so many reasons to be optimistic about the future. Now, mid-year grads, I feel a very special bond with each of you. I too was a December graduate. It was not something I had planned when I started college, but it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. In fact, graduating in December was one of the first real unplanned events in my life. However, as it turned out for me, and it will for you, our unplanned detours can lead to some of the most magical and exhilarating experiences of our lives, despite the momentary shock and reconsideration they can cause. One of the challenges for me when I was a student was getting used to the fact that my life could not always be planned. This can be particularly hard to accept here at Harvard, a place where students come in often knowing at 18 years old what they want to do for the rest of their lives, and then develop a checklist of classes and concentrations and extracurricular activities to reverse engineer that outcome. But then, as you December graduates know, life intervenes, and we have to grapple with uncertainty. And the past few years have brought more uncertainty than we could have anticipated. But it is in these moments of uncertainty that we encounter serendipity. At Harvard, Housing Day is one of the first encounters with serendipity. Moments where students don't really control the outcome, and where the results, unexpected friendships, explorations of the neighborhood surrounding the quad, a conversation you would never have had you not been set on a different path, can change your life. We can prepare ourselves to some extent for the fact that even big events like Housing Day or college graduation may have unexpected outcomes. But in our daily lives, it is difficult to stay open to the unexpected. Our postmodern techno-culture, big data, anticipating your needs, if you like this movie, then you might like this other one, creepy world where we post every book, movie, meal, or experience to 1,000 so-called friends and wait their judgment to whether the herd deems it something like-worthy, conspires against serendipity. Instead of browsing for books and coming across something interesting but unplanned, we go right to a particular book on Amazon. Instead of listening to an album and discovering a not popular but amazing song that seems to speak directly to us, we just tell Alexa to play our favorite song over and over and over again. And I really do like Pitbull, but I didn't realize I was going to be one of the top 5%. Just kidding. It was Beethoven. No. Our approach to life then becomes increasingly mechanical. Quantification, abstraction, bureaucratization, the very characteristics of our information society are the principles of operating systems and artificial intelligence, not human systems and intelligent ways of living life. A real life, as opposed to a mechanical one, is by its very nature unpredictable. Our choices should be influenced by the forces of life, such as love, curiosity, joy, responsibility, and not by an algorithm designed to get us to buy things or to activate our emotions in ways that encourage us to see our fellow humans as the other or threatening. In order to become free and independent thinkers, we must be conscious of those forces that constrain us and not be fearful of change. We have a choice between being alive or being as predictable as a light switch. Without moments of serendipity, we risk leading lives that are extremely efficient but monstrously dull. It is in those unexpected moments that make life both messy and majestic. And you, December graduates, are lucky to have gone off the path in ways that I will hope will lead you to some of those unexpected moments. For me, as a super senior at Cornell, serendipity happened 32 years ago, almost to the day. I had just accepted a job to become a bond trader at one of the most prestigious firms in the industry. However, I still had one more interview for a different position, and I thought it would be rude to cancel. So I went to that interview, and it changed my life. The interview was for a job that was risky compared to the one that I had in hand, a small technology startup with just a few people, lots of uncertainty, no cachet, but I was really taken by the passion and the intelligence of the person interviewing me. And so, after some internal debate, I ended up listening to my heart and not the noise. And because I went to that interview that day, I can trace the entire thread of my life and everything good that has happened to me since to serendipity. I left that job a long time ago, but that person who interviewed me is now my wife, my partner, my one true love, Stephanie. So, looking back, I can see the thread that connected those experiences. If I hadn't stepped off the expected path and become a December graduate, if I hadn't kept that interview appointment, if I hadn't been willing to change course after accepting that other job. But at the time, of course, I didn't know how it would all turn out. I was leaping into the unknown. As December graduates, you have already departed from the script you were following when you arrived here. As super seniors, and you really are super, you have had the chance to experience Harvard in uncharted ways through discovery and unexpected decisions. And in doing so, you have had to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That flexibility and strength will serve you well as you take the next steps down one path or swerve into another. I hear often from students that the path to Harvard rewards the risk-averse, and so they develop the habit of avoiding anything that could lead to failure. I hope that your experiences at Harvard have helped you to stop fearing failure, or at least to refuse to let that fear rule your life. I hope we have helped you understand that the unplanned and the serendipitous is part of the learning process, not your enemy, but a challenging friend. I hope that we have helped you find the courage to meet the obstacles in your path. Courage, after all, is the willingness to see beauty and hope in the world, even after experiencing life's challenges and ugliness. And I hope that we have helped you understand that the only real failure would be not to attempt anything at all. Being open to the unplanned is not just about seeking a life that is personally fulfilling. As a national and global society, we face unprecedented challenges and opportunities. Solving problems and making positive change are not endeavors that can be met by consulting a checklist or following a script. They will require being open to new ways of doing things, just as you've had to as you stepped off your original path through Harvard. I believe that your Harvard degree will open doors for you, but you'll have to decide which doors to enter and which doors to pass by. And if by serendipity an unexpected door opens, I hope you will take a look inside. I hope that your time at the college has given you more than competence, more than connections, and more than confidence. I hope that you will take with you the critical capacity and courage to challenge prejudices, stereotypes, and poorly constructed arguments of all kinds. I hope you are leaving us with an independent mind, a spirit that dares to explore, a commitment to inclusivity, and a heart that reaches out to others. And I hope that you have the will to shape the future. I hope that as the years pass, you will love this imperfect but striving college as I do. It has its problems, it has its flaws, but I do believe it is the greatest place in the world because it is not simply about bringing people together who are the best in the world, but rather about bringing people together who want to be their best for the world. Good luck, and may the unknowable grace that emanates from each of you continue to guide you and protect you. Semper Veritas.
Next, we'll hear the student reflection from Alicia Vernell Rivera. Please join me in welcoming Alicia.
Hello. Thank you, Kalse, and thank you to everyone for being here today. My fellow graduates, pretty fun to say that. I've been struck in these speeches and those given at commencement week this past spring that resilience has come up in at least one speech every day. And I find that this is the word that has come to define our time at Harvard. Resilience, a noun. The capability of a strained body to recover its size and shape after deformation caused especially by compressive stress. The word resilience derives back to the present participle of the Latin verb resilire, which means to jump back or to recoil. But that verb comes from the verb salire, which means to leap or to jump. So I'd like to put the discussion of our resilience on pause for a moment and instead focus on the leaps that have brought us to and from Harvard in our time here. Whenever you began your time at Harvard, you leapt onto this campus with a certain sense of awe, naivete, and nervousness. I certainly was that way. But in March of 2020, many of us leapt off campus to old places that had become completely unfamiliar to us. And because we too were unfamiliar with the versions of ourselves that we had left behind in those places. Often learning theory and statistics from our childhood bedrooms, we leapt between the very real world and the Harvard bubble, albeit online. And when it came to making the choice to continue leaping between those worlds, I made another one. After one semester fully remote in fall of 2020, zooming into Harvard from a farm, riding at least 4 horses each day and teaching kids after logging off from classes, I made what I thought was an incredibly selfish choice to take time away from Harvard. I was worried about disappointing the people who had put so much into me, my advisor, professors, coaches, and parents, and even more worried about the impact it would have on those who relied on me the most, my PAFEs, my team, and my house community. And the implications of taking one semester off and graduating off-cycle, thesising off-cycle, and graduating in December apart from my friends weighed on the back of my mind. But I find that Harvard students are rarely selfish people. I could even point out people in this room who have gone above and beyond and helped me in my time here. Are we goal-oriented, ambitious, even competitive? Yes, but rarely selfish, even in our individual academic pursuits. Your reasons why for being here are perhaps even sitting in this room, or they're in your hearts every step of the way. I've heard so many of you speak about how much being here means to your families, friends, and communities. And your achievements reflect beautifully on your formations. And your choices speak volumes to personal growth and an awareness of your needs and the needs of your community at any given time. Your reasons why for taking time away, if that's something you did, are beautiful, heartbreaking, unselfish, generous, and exciting. Whatever leaps you made during that time off have contributed to the version of you sitting here today. And they have given new perspective with which you have navigated the end of our time here together. They say that you learn in college just as much, if not more, from the people around you than you do in the classroom. And I'd like to add that you learn even more from being away from Harvard and coming back to it with a new set of eyes and appreciation for it, by adding to your own personal interpretive horizon. Coming back from my leave, I was struck with a new appreciation for all of this and all of you. The responsibilities you had or took up at home, the sacrifices you had to make, and your incredible ability to thrive despite it all. I was even more grateful for this place. The ability to go to a library and turn the pages of a source that wasn't available through HathiTrust, spontaneous run-ins with my friends, and the awe of sitting on Widener at night, one of my favorite pastimes. I have a reverence for this place and the people who make it what it is. And I hold such deep respect for my classmates and for the choices of those who stepped away from their studies for one reason or another, often prioritizing well-being, an unselfish choice that has made you stronger and brought new knowledge to your studies and to the community here at Harvard. Our early college years brought us the opportunity to interact with differences with curiosity, to learn concern and care for strangers who would become our friends and family, and that personal accountability will get you far. The pandemic taught us patience and care. It reminded us that we must consciously and intentionally listen to the voices of the most vulnerable, and it brought even more perspective to the way we see ourselves and our place in the world. These lessons and values have shaped some of the most kind, intelligent, and generous young people I know, and I'm so proud to call you my peers, colleagues, and friends. You have inspired me to learn, care, and love deeper, more thoughtfully and broadly. And I am so grateful for all that I've learned from you. And I'm even more grateful for the knowledge that you are the people going out into the world to change and improve it. And I look forward to watching you do it with pride. It's certainly unusual to graduate into this place. Physically, we're in Science Center Hall B. But temporally, we're kind of in a funky space as well. We still have finals to complete and theses to defend, at least I do. And it doesn't quite feel over yet. But I've decided that the beauty of a December graduation is that we have more opportunities to celebrate, but also that we have a modicum of time left to really enjoy it and to reflect on our time here. Last night, I had the opportunity to contribute to a workshop with a visiting scholar in my field in the very same classroom where I had my first Harvard class. I can't make this up. It actually happened. It was a leap back in time to that moment in fall of 2018 when the biggest leap I could dream of making was sitting down at a new table in Annenberg. It's a good exercise, both of these things. First, with the time we have left, I encourage you to explore some of those formative locations for a moment of reflection on your own journeys. And secondly, I encourage you to sit down at more tables in Annenberg. Not specifically in Annenberg, but wherever you go. Those first-year connections have led to friendly faces in this audience, allies in a classroom, and I'm sure what will be a surprise face and wave across a room someday, somewhere across the globe. In this world of uncertainty that can seem so vast, it's helpful to know that you're not alone, that you're always part of a broader community who will welcome you at that Annenberg table. It's scary to graduate and leave this place. I'll be the first to admit it. But I'll also admit that I feel more comfortable taking that leap because I know I'm not alone. So I hope that one day, when you're all famous and fabulous and changing the world in the ways I know you will, you'll take the time to give me the old nod and come sit down with me like the Annenberg days. Thank you, everyone, and congratulations.
Next, we will hear from Philip Lovejoy, Associate Vice President and Executive Director of the Harvard Alumni Association, who will welcome you into the alumni community. Please join us in welcoming Philip.
Thank you. First and foremost, congratulations. And congratulations as well to all your families, friends, and others who helped support you on your journey to today. And what a journey it's been. Through the pandemic, virtual learning, returning to campus with COVID protocols, and generally figuring out how to navigate through a more complex world. And yet, in spite of all of that, here you are. Congratulations. It's my great pleasure to welcome you as graduates to the Harvard Alumni Association. As alumni, you're joining a global network of 400,000 citizens of Harvard from across the university, including almost 100,000 alumni from the college. Whatever your next step, the Harvard alumni community is your community now and into the years to come. While at Harvard, you've built communities, both in person and virtual. You've made friendships that will be lifelong. I'm here to let you know that this experience of growing and building your Harvard community does not end after you graduate. You'll continue to form new bonds with fellow alumni as you strengthen your friendships that started on campus. As you graduate and emerge from the walls of Harvard, a global community of alumni will greet and welcome you wherever you are. Today marks the last time I will have the privilege of addressing the mid-year graduates, as I too am sort of graduating. I will be retiring from this position in 3 short weeks. I tell you this because I am asked often what I will miss the most about this extraordinary place. And the answer is quite simple. It is the people. There is nowhere that one can find a community of people as interesting, smart, kind, and generous as at Harvard. Individuals come from all walks of life, from every corner of our planet, drawn to this great university, and create a community that challenges and invigorates, and then goes forth into the world, degrees in hand. Our alumni then challenge and invigorate the world and bring some of the special sauce that makes Harvard so good to help to make the world a better place for all of us. In my almost 25 years at Harvard, I've seen this time and time again. And in my 19 years at the Alumni Association, I've been inspired by the commitment of our alumni not only to Harvard, but also to society. The global Harvard community of alumni is a welcoming community of great influence and comfort. We see that often. As alumni, you do have an obligation to the world, and we see that play out in our communities, such as the Harvard Alumni for Climate and the Environment, helping alumni understand climate change and what they can do to address the crisis. Or our race and ethnicity shared interest groups, who came together to organize the Unity Weekend, delayed 3 years, but finally done virtually, celebrating all of our alumni of color. Or the group of volunteers who stood up to make us as an organization work to educate and activate alumni communities around anti-racism and work to create real change in society. Just a couple of examples, but I encourage you to connect with alumni wherever you land after walking out through Harvard's hallowed gates. So how do you do this? Very soon, you'll start to see a lot of email from the Harvard Alumni Association. Please open those messages. Through them, we're letting you know about events, resources, and opportunities to network and build your community. You should also follow @Harvard Alumni on Instagram, along with following Rakesh, of course, and on Twitter, if it still exists. But why, you might ask, do we at the HA encourage this engagement? Beyond how great the people are, why do we want you to stay involved? Because your Harvard community needs you as much as you need it. As alumni, you help steward the university into the future. You keep Harvard honest, forward-thinking, and innovative, and you ensure Harvard always strives to be a better version of itself. I like to think of alumni as citizens of Harvard because you have responsibilities to this institution, much as you have responsibilities to the countries of which you are citizens. We have responsibilities to each other and to our countries to care, to participate, to be present, and engaged. We have an obligation to vote, to speak up, to listen, to bring others together. Even as you leave campus, it's still important to stay informed about what's happening here and to advocate for and defend the core values that underpin the university's mission. As graduates, you now have a voice in the governance of Harvard through elections for the Board of Overseers. I encourage you to exercise your right to vote when you receive those ballots. Harvard continues to excel because alumni like you and your classmates will never stop striving to ensure Harvard continues its pursuit of excellence. Together, you will all shape and sustain Harvard into its 5th century as you make your own mark on the world. Dean Khurana shares the college's mission often. As many of you likely know, an important part of this mission is for Harvard to educate citizen leaders. At the Harvard Alumni Association, where our mission is to connect alumni to each other and back to Harvard, we think about citizenship a lot. Through our work, we look to help you remain engaged as citizens of Harvard, and we are always in need of good leaders. So I ask you to take the Harvard College mission to heart by becoming citizen leaders in your alumni communities. There are countless examples of how graduates before you have done this, footsteps you can follow, or inspiration you can use to develop new ways of strengthening our alumni community. The Harvard Alumni Association is here to provide the resources to support you in these efforts and in your life's goals. So as you go forth, seek out alumni communities wherever you are. Be they your friends network, mentors, fellow alumni in your city, a Harvard club, a shared interest group. There are many ways to stay connected. Go forth in the world and wear your Harvard affiliation with pride. Show the world who Harvard is today and what we represent. You are Harvard, and Harvard needs you. Go forth and lead, and please come back and lead. Thank you, And once again, congratulations.
Next, we will hear from Scott V. Edwards, Professor of Organismic and Evolutionary Biology, Curator of Ornithology in the Museum of Comparative Zoology, Alexander Agassiz Professor of Zoology in the Museum of Comparative Zoology, Chair of the Department of Organismic and Evolutionary Biology, Senior Advisor to the Dean on Faculty Development, and Director of Graduate Studies. Please join me in welcoming Professor Edwards.
Thank you very much, Kelsey. And I can tell you, despite all those titles, I only have one salary. And actually, two of those titles are defunct. So, but I was pleased that I beat Rakesh in terms of the amount of white space on the page my titles took up. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you very much. As graduating mid-year seniors, I hope you've at least been to the Harvard Museum of Natural History. And perhaps even better, seen the ornithology collection, which I'm in charge of. It's one of the great gems of Harvard. Now, as Rakesh and others have said, you've all taken the time to diverge from your classmates in terms of your schedule, the pace of your Harvard education. And hopefully, during that time away, you've been broadened by your activities. As an undergrad here, class of '86, I took a year off, and it was really that year off that gave me the direction that I needed to move forward. My one piece of advice I'll have for you is to travel, and not so much the physical travel, but travel in the sense of intentional curiosity about your surroundings. Rubbing shoulders with people from other backgrounds, other countries potentially, or even our own country, is a great thing to do to ensure that you remain broad and active in your interests. Especially if you have a job lined up or the next phase of your career is perhaps settled, take a few weeks to hit the open road. Because during those times, it's really when we grow, and it's a leap forward that the classroom simply can't offer. I mean, if I really had my choice, I would encourage or facilitate travel for all Americans. Of course, that's not something that many Americans have access to, because I feel that travel is really the best way to induce humility. It's the best way to foster self-reliance, and a great way to understand different perspectives. I think if more Americans traveled, we as a country would be much less assured of our leadership in basic aspects of life. So transportation, environmental justice, healthcare, even education. I think in a good way, we would do more searching for how we can make better our country and our society. During the summer of 2020, I took it upon myself to fulfill a lifelong dream to ride my bicycle across the United States. And actually, I was doing a fair bit of tweeting during that time, and I think because of that, I'm actually much better known in the wider world for that bicycle trip than for any science I've actually done. And no, I didn't ask permission before doing it from Rakesh or anyone else. I just hit the open road. At the beginning, my journey was pretty much a lark, designed to get me away from the incessant Zoom calls that really dominated that spring of 2020. But it quickly took on an additional dimension. After all, I left only a week after the horrendous murder of George Floyd. And also, soon after that shocking encounter of a white woman and a black bird watcher in Central Park, which many of you remember. As I'm sure you know, that black bird watcher was Christian Cooper, Harvard class of '84. During my journey, I saw amazing landscapes, rivers, vistas that I will simply never forget. And yes, I saw lots and lots of amazing birds. But perhaps at least as interesting as the birds and landscapes were the people that I encountered and got to interact with. Much of my journey was through so-called flyover country, very few people of color. Indeed, many of the people and communities that I interacted with probably didn't have any people of color in their day-to-day networks. Nonetheless, the overwhelming tenor of my interactions with people on that trip was one of generosity, kindness, and curiosity. I got lots of fists in the air as folks drove past the Black Lives Matter signs festooned to my bicycle, lots of free bottles of water, and occasionally I even got a place to stay. Now, this is not to say that there weren't rough spots during this journey. I can tell you stories of folks who refused me a place to stay on their property, particularly because of those Black Lives Matter signs I had there. I can also tell you about lots of troubling stories of misinformation, like the perception that the Black Lives Matter movement was funded by the Democrats. This is something that someone told me, and it was so weirdly truthful that I sort of paused for a moment. And that the Black Lives Matter movement was simply synonymous with violence and mayhem. Other more subtle kinds of misinformation I encountered, for example, from a lady in eastern Wyoming, from a coal mining family, who is trying to convince me that green energy, such as wind turbines, would quickly lose their value and were not a good long-term investment. Now, several weeks later, I actually had a chance encounter with a trained technician of one of those wind turbines, and he assured me that, in fact, no, these are very long-lasting and a very good investment for America's energy future. But I also saw that, in many ways, this woman in eastern Wyoming was desperate. She was trying to find a way forward in a very rapidly changing world, a very rapidly changing economic landscape that she and her family were not prepared to embrace. And this is the kind of fast-moving world that hopefully Harvard has prepared you to embrace. And most importantly on that trip, I relearned, I think, and continued to practice simply listening to people, hearing them out, giving them their space, empathizing, figuring out what's important to them. Because that, I think, is a very important key to healing some of the divisions currently in our country. And hopefully that's a skill that your Harvard education has helped you to refine and apply in diverse settings. So once again, many congratulations and many thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our speakers today, and thank you to everyone who joined us today to celebrate the graduates. Let's all take a moment to recognize them now. Graduating students, please stand. Congratulations to the graduates. Thank you all again for joining. A reception will be held from 4 to 5 Northwest Labs in the lower lobby. Thank you.